Hello again, everyone. It's great seeing you once again, and thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the 6th day of December 2020, I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on Hazardous Weather Graphic, not too much going on. The yellow area there, that's a winter weather advisory out on the southwest coast and in the lower Yukon River Valley area, including the Anvik, Grayling areas, and that's out for snow and blowing snow, and winds gusting to 40 miles an hour and could pick up 4 inches of snow, and that's out through Monday night for those conditions, and that could reduce visibility less than a half mile at times with those gusty winds out of the north and mostly out of the north or northeast. And for the Kuskokwim Delta, same sort of pattern going on, but that doesn't kick into effect until noon Monday and then continues through Monday night. Looking for possibly, in the forecast, 5 inches of snow, and then winds gusting 40, 45 miles an hour would blow that around and, again, reduce visibilities down to less than half a mile at times. And again, that'll continue from noon Monday until through Monday night. And for the lower Yukon Valley, it's currently out now, and that'll continue through Monday night, possibly into early Tuesday. And the other area there is over the northern panhandle, Lynn Canal, Haines, Klondike Highway up towards Skagway. That's a flood watch, which continues out through Sunday evening, this evening, and until about midnight or so for the snow melt, warmer temperatures, heavy rains have moved in, and still a possibility of some flooding going on there. Other than that, no other watches, warnings, or advisories out for any other location around the state, as a high wind warning that was out over the southern southeast coast ended at 3 p.m. And the Aleutians, no watches, warnings, or advisories as well. Satellite imagery, pretty intense storm, or pretty active wound up system south of Kodiak Island. That pushed the front with the gusty winds and rain up into the North Gulf Coast today, or actually from Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, and then pushing across the panhandle there. And that brought the gusty winds earlier to the southeast coast, and wind and rain from the North Gulf Coast, although much lighter amounts. Cordova picked up about, I believe, just 0.16 of an inch of precipitation in the form of rain. Temperature 41 degrees there at mid-afternoon. And a little bit more at Yakutat, but the heavier precipitation occurred over the southern southeast coast with, Haida, I believe is how you pronounce it, probably not, but it's on Prince of Wales Island there north of Heidelberg, and they picked up about 2.12 inches in the last 12 hours there. Petersburg, another 1.11 inches. Haines, farther up the north there, had about an inch of precipitation, as well as Kodiak, in closer to the low center, they had about an inch of rainfall also. And you can see the one surge of moisture moving on through the southeast coast, with several more surges back to the west there, with the main low center will be tracking slowly northeastward, just east of Kodiak Island, right up to just south of Resurrection Bay by tomorrow afternoon. And clouds into the interior, especially over the eastern interior, mid and high level stuff there, and then some breaks in the Copper River Basin. And areas of light snow going on, but nothing too significant, a little bit more measurable out toward the southwest interior areas. And then cold air continues to come southward on the backside of that system across the Bering Sea all the way down into the central and eastern Aleutians. Snowfall levels currently are about down to sea level from Atka Island eastward to the Alaska Peninsula, with that, of course, the precipitation there has changed to snow, and pretty strong winds occurring with those with the northerly winds there. Wind gusts, as I mentioned, high as 71 miles per hour at King Cove, and 60 miles an hour recorded at Unalaska peak wind gusts, while St. George Island there had 58 miles an hour. And windy conditions, Bethel, are 45 miles an hour for the wind gusts. So pretty windy across the southwest interior. Gusts about 35 to 40 for Dillingham, 50 miles an hour at Tooksuk Bay, and then lighter as you head north. But higher elevations over the interior were pretty windy as well, with Indian Mountain, for example, seeing gusts 35 to possibly 40 miles an hour. And on the chart here, you can see that due to a fairly tight gradient now across central and southern Alaska, and back down into the eastern Bering and the eastern central Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula area. And you can see moisture with one surge moving through the southeast coast, the main low center back to the west. And again, several surges of moisture and southwest flow will keep it mild over the southeast coast, keep pushing surges of warmer air and rainfall into the area there. And same thing for Kodiak Island today. As I mentioned, they had about an inch of precipitation with that front, and southern southeast coast about 2 inches. A little, if any, up over the interior, just mostly clouds. A little bit of moisture could have snuck into the eastern interior there, just north of the eastern Alaska Range. If it did, it wasn't very significant. And conditions of much improved there along the Arctic coast from what they had been, with light winds today and maybe a few flurries and some variable clouds with the Arctic high over the north slope. And much lighter wind conditions there, and also out over the far western Bering Sea and Aleutians, actually Adak westward to Shimianatu, winds are fairly light with just some rain or snow shower activity or nothing at all, with higher pressure ridging into the area there. But the main center up over the Russian Far East tonight, that'll continue. The windy conditions should slowly diminish for the Pribilof Islands as well as the Fox Islands. Stay quite windy, though, with the Alaska Peninsula. Again, with snowfall levels down to sea level, look for snow for Nikolsky, Unalaska, Dutch Harbor, as well as the Alaska Peninsula, especially on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula and the Bristol Bay side. Lee side won't see anything at all, like Sandpoint and Chignik, won't pick up any precipitation. As that low slowly tracks northward, there periods of rain for Kodiak Island, but winds won't be much of a factor, and still pretty gusty on the winds as that next front forms from those troughs and pushes another pretty good surge of moisture into the southeast coast tonight, but not anything too terribly heavy, not as heavy as what was seen a couple days ago or yesterday. Just moderate amounts of rain, possibly heavy at times, with all of rain will be mostly in the form of rain, except for the higher elevations there. North Gulf Coast, same thing, rain. Inland areas, mixture of precipitation, possible light freezing rain. And then quite an area of snow with the cold air continuing to come out over the open water of the Bering Sea. And that will continue through tomorrow there, another trough swinging southward. So snow from the Pribilofs right on down, could mix in and out with rain maybe for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. But I think it'll probably stay in the form of snow. And Kodiak Island, still a chance of rain with winds starting to swing around to the northwest with the low center pulling up to the northeast. Stays wet and windy for the North Gulf Coast and the north coast of the Panhandle, with lighter precipitation amounts for the southern Panhandle. Interior basically fair and variably cloudy and breezy, but a narrow band of light snowfall could extend from the western Alaska Range right up through the central interior and then expand a little as it reaches the eastern Brooks Range, with the North Slope Arctic coast basically dry. Outlook for Tuesday. Low pressure right over the Alaska Peninsula, but only about 990 millibars, so nothing as strong as what we've seen the last several days. But that'll keep it unsettled and wet for Kodiak Island, as well as the North Gulf Coast, southwest flow across the Gulf. That's a continuation of the wet weather pattern for the southeast coast, but it will be lighter amounts of precipitation. And areas of snow now possible up over the south central interior, say from Cook Inlet, Anchorage area, mixture of precipitation, possible even areas of light freezing rain from the north, or the inland areas of the North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, and then fared over the northwest, and still windy and cold for the eastern Aleutians, with snow for the Alaska Peninsula as well. Next system pushing in toward the far western Aleutians. Lows for tonight, warmer, say 15 to 20, maybe 25 below up there over the northeast interior areas, and a shade below freezing for the Copper River Basin. Otherwise, mid-30s to lower 40s for the southeast coast. Mid to upper 20s for the Alaska Peninsula, as well as the central Aleutians, even Shimia down to 30, 25 for the Pribilof, St. Lawrence Island, and a little below zero for the Arctic coast. Highs for tomorrow, milder, south central Alaska, lower to mid 30s to near 40 around Kachemak Bay, Homer, Seldovia, lower 40s Kodiak Island, 40s for the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast. Teens, Copper River Basin, Susitna Valley rising up to near freezing. Single numbers, central interior, and as well as the Arctic coast. And teens to the lower 20s along the extreme southwest coast near freezing for the Pribilofs. Lows the following morning below zero north and northwest of the Alaska Range. Single numbers over the Kuskokwim Valley to 15 to 20 on the southwest coast. Let's see, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle. That'll be followed by highs in the 40s and lower to mid 30s for south central Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Looking at the first flying weather graphic for Monday morning, we've got IFR up along the north slope and most of the Arctic coast there. South of the Brooks Range, though, VFR, and then back into the IFR with moisture slipping north and northeastward. A band of IFR there from the border right on down across, say, maybe along and north of the White Mountains into the central interior. And then some more IFR for Bristol Bay and eastern Kamishak Bay down across Kodiak Island. Otherwise, marginal VFR for much of the central southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians with a little bit of VFR thrown in for AKwx areas. And for the Panhandle, IFR, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, and over toward the border, otherwise marginal. And some IFR for the southern Kenai Peninsula, Resurrection Bay, western Prince William Sound, northward across the Talkeetnas. And then for Monday, not too much change there for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and the southeast interior, with some IFR trying to get into the Copper River Basin, and marginal VFR trying to get north of the eastern Alaska Range, and having trouble doing so. Otherwise, central interior, marginal VFR, IFR Bristol Bay into the southern Kuskokwim Valley and the eastern Kuskokwim Delta with IFR for the north slope. And then more VFR out over the central and western Bering Sea and the Aleutians as well. And then moving to the flying weather forecast for Tuesday morning. Still got an area of IFR, pretty extensive there. Actually now south of the Brooks Range into the northern Koyukuk Valley and northwestern Yukon Flats area. Back across all the way including the Arctic coast. And then VFR along the west coast inland across Yukon Kuskokwim Delta. Seward Peninsula, Kotzebue Sound, Selawik Valley to the Kobuk Valley area, Ambler along the northwest coast. IFR, Alaska Range into the Kuskokwim Valley, and then it kind of narrows out as you drop southwestward there into Bristol Bay and along the north side of the Alaska Peninsula. Narrow band of IFR, western Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast in the range there, and to Yakutat in the northern Panhandle, still down along the eastern border areas with marginal VFR out to the west, and then VFR just off the coast. Pretty nice there out over the Bering Sea, and that continues into Tuesday as well. Just VFR for just about all the Aleutians there, with the maybe some marginal VFR for Unalaska Island and Attu. Pribilofs marginal, St. Lawrence Island marginal, IFR central eastern north slope Arctic coast, southward into the central interior down to now almost western Cook Inlet, and then along the Alaska Range. And lower conditions, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, into the Panhandle, with Prince of Wales Island becoming VFR, Upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country VFR, and VFR western interior areas, and the northwest coast, on down to the Kuskokwim, Togiak Bay areas, and south side of the Alaska Peninsula. For passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR with lower conditions north, better conditions south, same forecast for Adigan, IFR north side, marginal through the pass, and then possibly VFR out the south entrance. And Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR with IFR on the eastern approaches with the easterly flow. And for Rainy, same forecast, IFR eastern approach, otherwise marginal, and windy, marginal VFR. Isabel, IFR. Mentasta, marginal VFR, but VFR north entrance. And Tanita, lower conditions eastern approach, VFR western approach. Portage, IFR, Chilcoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet over the northern Panhandle and 4,000 feet down toward Dixon Entrance, and 2,000 feet there just north of Kodiak Island, and at the surface really meandering across the central Bering Sea. Icing, surges of moisture continuing to come northeastward in southwest flow ahead of that low center, so occasional moderate or considerable moderate icing possible, rime or scattered, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound into the northern Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast. Jet streams now south of the Queen Charlotte's, the core of the jet now, and lighter through the Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, still pretty brisk there, 45 to 50 knot southeasterlies into the eastern North Gulf Coast and northern Panhandle, eastern interior. Northeast 55 knots, northern Bering Sea turn northerly at 40 across eastern Aleutians. 3,000 feet, 60 knot northeasterlies there, Yukon Delta coast and southern Norton Sound. And then winds continuing southerly to southwest up to 50 knots still for the North Gulf Coast. Turbulence-wise, look for considerable moderate chop, especially earlier in the day for the northern or much of the Panhandle, all of the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Turnagain Arm, as well as the Seward Peninsula and the Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, Alaska Peninsula, Unalaska Island, but slowly improving in those areas.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute. So it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We've just launched the MPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, not too different from yesterday. And the westerly winds that were up have been going on up there will become more northeasterly over the next couple of days. And that should allow ice fields to expand westward there in that open zone there east-southeast of Wrangell Island. And probably continue to see increases in ice for Norton Sound and also Kotzebue Bay, or Kotzebue Sound as well. And for the coastal water forecasts, south winds 30 knots, seas 28 to 30 feet for the panhandle there on the outer coastline. Small craft advisories for the central, or for all of the inside waters for southerlies at 25 knots. And Stevens Passage looking at possible gust of 40 knots. Seas running 5 feet except for Clarence Strait where they're forecast to be at 11 feet. And then winds come down, stay southerly, central and southern inside waters at 15 knots, come down to 15 knots. Seas subside 3 to 4 feet, south 15 for Lynn Canal, seas 3 feet. And less wind and lower sea heights also for the southeast coastline there. 15 knots from the southwest and extreme north coast, otherwise southwest 20 knots with seas still around 20 feet for the remainder of the coastline. Prince William Sound, pretty brisk tomorrow. East winds 30 knots, sustained. Seas 6 feet. Northeast 20 for Northern Cook Inlet, 30 knots. Small craft advisories south of the Forelands. And gale warnings, Kamishak Bay, northeast 35 knots. Barren Islands, east at 20. Small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast. East-southeast winds 25 to 30 knots with 20 to 26-foot seas. And for Tuesday, south winds 25 knots for the North Gulf Coast and lighter southerly winds for Prince William Sound at 20 knots, seas 3 feet. Southeast 15 knots for Northern Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands. Southerlies at 15, southwest 15 for Kamishak Bay. And the Barren Islands, small craft advisories, southwest winds 25 knots, seas 13 feet. Kodiak Island on the east side, west 25 knots, seas close to 20 feet, and Chillicothe Strait, northerlies at 25 knots with seas close to 10 feet. Then we've got 30 to 35 knot winds from Sitkinak to Cape Saratchev there on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, northwest 30, Bristol Bay north at 20. Those will be small craft advisories for Bristol Bay on Tuesday, northeast 25 knots. Gale warnings for the Alaska Peninsula, Bering Sea side, northwest 35, and from Cape Sarichef to Cape Sarichef to Sitkinak, west winds 35 knots and 20 to 30 knot southwest winds for Kodiak Island with seas as high as 14 feet. Fox Islands, lighter winds for sure tomorrow. Northwest 30 knots for Unalaska Island, seas up to 14 feet. 20 to 25 knots for Unmak Island, Nikolsky, northwest 20 to 25, and north-northwest 15 for Adak and Atka, and then west or west-northwest breezes at 15 knots with 10-foot seas for the western Aleutians. But that changes with the next system pushing in late in the day. Gales come back to Shimmy and Attu out of the southeast at 40 knots, and in the case of Amchitka, southeast 45 knots. And southerly gales on the increase there for the for the Adak-Atka area. Gales later in the day, especially for Adak, probably evening before they reach Atka. And then northwest 20 knots, Unmak Island, northwest 30 knots, Unalaska Island. Southwest coast, north winds 40 knots, seas 9 to 14 feet. Pribilofs, north 30. Gale warnings for St. Matthew Island, north 35 knots. Same thing for St. Lawrence Island, Norton Sound, north at 30. Make it 20 knots out of the north for Norton Sound on Tuesday. 30-knot northerlies there, St. Lawrence Island, the Yukon Delta coast. Gale warnings north 35 for the Kuskokwim Delta coast. 25-knot winds St. Matthew Island. And the Pribilofs, north 30 knots, seas 12 feet. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, variable winds tomorrow at 10 knots. And northeast 15 for the Central coast. And small craft advisories on the west side there. Western Arctic coast, northeast 25 knots. And small craft advisories for north winds 25 to 30 knots from Cape Beaufort to Wales. And then for Tuesday, 30-knot winds from Wales up to Cape Thompson, and then 20-knot winds from Cape Thompson all the way up along the central coast from the east-northeast, 20 knots, and then northeast 15 knots for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. For tonight, again, weakening storm slowly. Keeps it wet and windy, though, from the North Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. Warming temperatures work their way in with an increasing chance of moisture across southern Alaska. And for tomorrow, that low continues to weaken, and another front develops. Wind and wet conditions, North Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle, and still damp for the Panhandle on Tuesday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.